Nicky Morgan was Culture Secretary when she was put into the House of Lords. She's a great ally of David Cameron, and she has said that she thinks that becoming Foreign Secretary at this stage, the first ex-Prime Minister to come back into politics since the 1970s, that this is a way for him to rewrite the end of his career. Because the end of his career as Prime Minister was appalling. He effectively was the midwife of Brexit, a child that he never wanted. And he was also he would go down as the Prime Minister who presided over unnecessary austerity and and I don't think that's part of his character. And he will bring undoubted strengths to the job because of his experience as being Prime Minister. And his experience of being Prime Minister in a coalition speaks volumes about his ability to negotiate his way through problems. But that legacy he brings with him, the investigations, for example, on the Greensill capital, and all that sort of nonsense, still is still hanging like a sword of Damocles over him, and his involvement in Greensill, which had been the subject of a scathing report by a Treasury Select Committee, was an error in the 6 years since his leaving the job in Number 10. As for his attitude on a world stage to other countries, his attitude to China seems to be at odds with the attitude of the present government. He was very keen to reach out to China, and now the present government seems to be very keen to close the doors. Maybe David Cameron is in a position to find some sort of middle way, stick his foot in the door, maybe, and so the failed UK-China relationship could perhaps be reignited by David Cameron's intervention. And I mean, I don't think it's as harsh as Sir Ian Duncan Smith would have it, that that putting Cameron in charge means we've given up on human rights and that Beijing can now breathe a sigh of relief. I don't think that's the right view, and I think Cameron has always put forward a very strong commitment to human rights. As for his other failings post prime ministership, things like the Afiniti, the tech company, where he was a boardroom advisor, and the boss of that had been accused of harassment and assault. I don't know. Maybe becoming foreign secretary is a way to draw a line under a lot of this stuff. He, after all, in 2010 talked about Gaza as a prison camp, and a prison camp rather than a concentration camp. And I think he's using his words carefully. I think he must be one of the few Western leaders to have dared to say such a thing. He was the person who sent troops to Ukraine long before Russia invaded. But after Russia had taken over Crimea, that was in response to Russia's aggression. So again, he was one of the first people to actually do something proactive in response to President Putin's machinations on the world stage. And maybe he should have done more. Maybe he should have done more. But it is interesting seeing Cameron back. I don't think it's going to be without problems, and I think particularly his links to things like the Afiniti problem, his post-political career, the Greensill affair, the biggest, which was seen as the biggest lobbying scandal in the UK for a generation. It's not positive. The Zia Christie thing, I think, is something which is going to drag on, and Cameron's involvement was tangential at best. But it's not good. He said that he had absolutely no knowledge until yesterday's congressional hearing, is that enough? Is that enough to distance himself? Probably. Probably.